Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I know calendars fill up quickly, so we really appreciate you taking the time to spend 30 minutes with us. My name is Sayori, and I am the marketing manager here at Summit. Today's session is part of our AI in 30 series, where we break down complex topics into practical, real-world insights you can use in your organization. Today's topic is one that's becoming more important by the day: AI governance. Now, if you've been following the conversation around AI, you've probably heard a lot about what AI can do, but what we're seeing with most organizations right now is this: AI adoption is moving faster than oversight. Teams are experimenting, tools are being used, but in many cases, data is being shared without visibility or control. There are no clear rules or defined boundaries, and accountability is unclear or just doesn't exist at all. AI isn't the risk, but unmanaged AI is. And that's exactly where governance comes in. So today, instead of focusing on tools or features, we're actually going to focus on control, accountability, and risk, and how to approach AI in a way that's both effective but responsible. To help us do that, I am joined by our guest speaker, Scott Brown. Scott is our data governance expert here at Summit, and he works directly with organizations to build the policies, controls, and frameworks that keep data, and now AI, secure, compliant, and aligned with business goals. Scott is going to walk us through what AI governance actually is, why it matters, and what it looks like in practice. So here's what we're going to cover over the next 30 minutes. We're going to look at what AI governance is and why it matters, why governance is becoming critical as AI adoption grows, the core pillars of a strong AI governance strategy, the risks of unmanaged AI usage, and practical steps to get ahead. This is not going to be a technical discussion. It's not about coding or building models. This is about making sure your organization uses AI responsibly. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Scott.
Thank you, Sari. My name is Scott Brown, and I'm a senior project engineer here at Summit. That is also known as a professional computer nerd. Some of you may already know me from projects we have worked on together in the past. And for those of you I have not yet worked with, I'm looking forward to it. So we're going to start with a simple definition because this is something that gets overly complicated very quickly. AI governance defines how AI is used across your organization, including the rules and controls that guide its use. At its core, it answers a few critical questions. What data can AI access? Who is allowed to use it? What can it be used for? And how are the outputs reviewed? When AI operates without governance, it quickly becomes a fragmented free-for-all. Teams use mismatched tools and inconsistent data, leaving leadership completely blind to the growing risks. This isn't just a security issue, it's a matter of accountability and consistency. The reason this topic is so important right now is timing. AI adoption has accelerated faster than most organizations' ability to control it. In many environments, we see that employees are already using AI, whether there's a policy in place or not. This might look like copying internal data into public AI tools, using AI to generate client-facing content, automating workflows without oversight. This is commonly referred to as shadow AI. And the challenge isn't that people are using AI, it's that they're doing it without guardrails. Think about how this plays out in an average workday through three very innocent but incredibly high-risk scenarios. Innocent shortcut. A marketing manager dumps a draft of a highly confidential, unreleased product roadmap into a free AI tool to make it sound punchier for a client presentation. The code copy paste. A software engineer copies a chunk of proprietary corporate code into a public chat window to help debug an error quickly, essentially donating our intellectual property to a third-party model. Finally, the autopilot meeting. An employee invites an unapproved AI note taker bot into a highly sensitive board meeting where financial forecasts, mergers, or restructuring plans are openly discussed, often without even realizing they've done so. In every single case, the employee isn't trying to cause harm. They are trying to be efficient. But for organizations with sensitive client data, strict regulatory requirements, or massive internal data sets, these simple shortcuts expose the business to catastrophic vulnerabilities. This creates significant exposure. Governance is what turns AI from a risk into a controlled asset. Let's walk through the actual framework that makes or breaks an AI strategy. Sorry about this. My cat is deciding that it is joining us in the middle of this meeting, and I specifically was talking to Sayori about how prepared I had gotten the cat. It has treats, it has food, but that didn't matter. All right, let's walk through the actual framework that makes or breaks an AI strategy. These are the four pillars of AI governance. And look, if you get this part right, your organization can move fast with complete confidence. Let's start with pillar number one, data control. This really boils down to two simple questions. What data are your people using, and where on earth is it going? First, we must draw a stark, undeniable line between non-sensitive and sensitive data. If an employee uses AI to write a generic email template or summarize a public article, go for it. That's low risk, everyday efficiency. But the game changes completely the moment they upload proprietary source code, financial histories, or private records. That is sensitive data. And right now, your team needs an explicit framework to instantly spot that difference before they hit submit. You should also look at the pipeline, internal versus external systems. Free consumer AI tools are external systems. What does this mean? Anything you type into them can be used to train their public models, essentially exposing your private data to the world. To protect your business, you have to route your team towards secure internal systems. Enterprise-grade accounts that guarantee your inputs will stay walled off and completely private. That brings us to pillar number two, access control. Once the pipeline itself is secure, you have to ask who actually gets to use these AI tools and at what level. Think of it as role-based permissions. You don't give a brand new intern the master passwords to the corporate bank accounts on day one. AI shouldn't be any different. We also need restrictions based on workflow sensitivity. An analyst looking at public market trends can have a relatively open sandbox to play in. But an HR manager handling payroll or sensitive performance reviews, they need a heavily restricted environment to guarantee that data never accidentally bleeds into tools the rest of the company can access. Pillar number three is all about usage policies, or to put it simply, what is AI allowed to be used for? We need clear rules for separating internal productivity from external communication. Using AI internally to brainstorm ideas, format a messy spreadsheet, or outline a meeting is a massive win. But using AI to write unedited, client-facing emails or public press releases, that is a massive brand risk. Give your employees a concrete black and white list of approved versus restricted use cases so they don't accidentally wander into dangerous territory. And if you aren't sure where to draw those lines, Summit can help you do that. Finally, pillar number four, and the one that saves your company from major errors, human oversight. We have to identify exactly where a human review is non-negotiable. First, you must require reviews for any high impact outputs. Automated financial forecasts, legal briefs, strategic decisions. AI should assist with the decision, but never make it entirely. Second, we have to validate accuracy. We have all heard of AI hallucinations, where these tools completely make up facts or numbers with absolute confidence. I've already promised Sayori I am not going to go on a rant about these type of things. Employees must treat every AI output as a rough first draft, a draft that must be fact checked by a human eye before it ever leaves the building. When you put these four pillars together, you create the literal foundation for responsible AI adoption. These aren't bad employees trying to cause harm. They're good employees just trying to be efficient. But the bottom line is clear: innocent workflow shortcuts create massive vulnerabilities. Now, when you put these four pillars together, data control, access control, usage policies, and human oversight, you create the foundation for responsible AI adoption. They provide structure, accountability, and consistency while allowing organizations to take advantage of AI's benefits. And when those elements are missing, that's when risk begins to increase. Let's talk about what those risks look like in practice. What happens when governance is left out of the equation? We consistently see four major risks emerge. Data exposure. Sensitive information is shared with tools outside your control. Inaccurate outputs. AI generates content that sounds correct but isn't. Lack of accountability. No clear ownership of decisions made using AI. Compliance risk. Failure to meet regulatory standards, especially in legal, education, or government-related work. None of these are theoretical. These are already happening in real organizations. The good news is governance doesn't have to be complicated. Strong governance is usually clear, practical, and incremental. The goal isn't restriction, it's clarity. Take a look at how this plays out in practice. A nonprofit might use AI for grant writing while strictly prohibiting it from handling donor financial data. A law firm might use it for quick document summaries, but require a partner's review before anything goes to a client. Or an educational institution might allow AI for content creation, but completely ban it for processing student data. In every case, governance isn't about stopping progress. It's about building a safe sandbox where your team can innovate with confidence. So if you're thinking, this sounds important, but where do we begin? You're not alone. Here are three practical starting points. First, define acceptable use. Start with a simple policy: what AI can and cannot be used for. Second, identify sensitive data. Clarify what should never be entered into AI tools. Third, choose approved tools. Standardize what platform your team use. You don't need a perfect system, you just need a clear first step. That's exactly how we approach AI governance at Summit. It's not just a static policy document, it's an active strategy where we build the actual tech guardrails to back up your rules. To show you what this looks like, let's look at that third point: choosing approved tools. We've deployed a setup for clients that integrates approved AI platforms directly into their existing data ecosystems. While no single security measure is 100% foolproof, this is a highly effective layer of protection. It works via a lightweight browser extension in Google Chrome and Microsoft Edge. The extension monitors clipboard activity in real time. If an employee attempts to copy and paste sensitive information straight out of Microsoft SharePoint, they're trying to put that into an AI tool, the system dynamically flags it. Depending on your setup, different underlying detection engines can drive this, either scanning for predefined sensitivity labels or using advanced content scanning to detect personal data or proprietary code the moment a paste is attempted. It stops the action before that data ever leaves your secure perimeter. What's great is that this actually gives employees more freedom. They don't have to consistently second guess if they are allowed to use a certain file. because they know the system has their back if they make an honest mistake. That's the beauty of practical governance. It's not about telling your team no, it's about putting automated safety nets in place so your people can innovate safely while your data stays secure. Before we move into questions, I just want to leave everyone with a few key takeaways. AI is already being used across organizations, often faster than policies and oversight can keep up. As adoption grows, governance becomes less of a future consideration and more of a business necessity. Today, we covered what AI governance is, why it matters, the core pillars that support it, and the risks organizations face when controls aren't in place. We also talked about how governance doesn't have to be complicated. It just starts with clear expectations, defined boundaries, and practical guardrails. The goal isn't to limit innovation. It's to create a framework that allows your organization to use AI confidently, responsibly, and effectively. So with that, I'll hand it back to Sayori to open things up for questions.
Thank you, Scott. It is very clear that skipping governance creates massive vulnerabilities that organizations cannot afford to ignore right now. If you have some questions, you can send it through the chat. I'll take a look at them, send them over to Scott, but I'm going to get started with one that we see a lot. Do organizations actually need a massive formal governance framework in place before they touch AI?
Not at all. One of the biggest myths, sorry, uh, one of the biggest myths out there is that AI governance requires a mountain of paperwork, dedicated committee, and months of planning before you can even type a single prompt. If you wait for that, you'll never start. Governance should actually grow with your AI use. What really matters is just getting a few basic guardrails down early. Think about the basics. What are we allowed to use AI for? What data is strictly off limits? And which specific tools are actually approved? Even a super simple one-page policy cuts down your risk immediately and gets everyone on the same page. The teams that get into trouble are the ones that say, we'll worry about governance later. By the time later comes around, 20 employees are using 20 different unapproved tools, and leadership has completely lost visibility. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just needs to start.
That makes total sense. It's actually about building the foundation while you build the momentum. That's exactly where we step in at Summit. We don't just hand you the 50-page textbook. We work with you to write practical, simple AI policies that are tailored to your exact team and your organization. We help you set up those foundational guardrails right away so you can start innovating with complete confidence. We just had a really good question come in, actually. Someone is asking about small businesses. I think a lot of people assume AI governance is really only a headache for the massive corporations or highly regulated industries like healthcare or finance. Is that true?
No, far from it. If your organization handles client data, stuff like employee records or internal documents, proprietary code or workflows, you need governance. Highly regulated companies feel the pressure first because of legal compliance, but governance is really just about consistency and responsibility. Those needs don't change just because you have a smaller headcount. I would say smaller organizations actually have a huge advantage here. There's less red tape and fewer stakeholders. They can just spin up policies and adapt processes incredibly fast. So getting those rules down early protects you from messy cleanups down the road. Whether you're a small nonprofit, law firm, or a commercial business, the core principles are identical. You just have to know what tool your team is using and protect your sensitive data and keep a human in the loop to, put that accountability there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually really glad you brought up nonprofits and law firms because their data needs are so unique. That's actually a huge focus for us here at Summit because we don't rely on cookie cutter solutions for you. We look at your specific size, your industry, and risk factors to help you craft policies that fit perfectly. It means that smaller businesses get that same rock solid data and brand protection that major corporations rely on without the heavy overhead. To wrap things up, we just had the perfect final question come in. Someone is asking, what is the single biggest mistake you see organizations making when it comes to AI governance?
Oh, this is a very near and dear type issue to my heart. Um, the biggest mistake is treating it like it's a future you problem and not a current you problem. Everyone gets incredibly excited about the potential of AI, as they should. They want to boost productivity, they want to automate the boring stuff and just get moving faster. But because of that excitement, the rules kind of get pushed down the priority list. Leaders think, oh, we'll add the controls once we figure out how we're using it. But here's the catch. Your employees aren't waiting for that to happen. They're already using it.
Mhm,
If you don't give them clear expectations from day one,
mhm,
they'll build workflows, they'll share information across platforms that you don't even know they're using.
mhm. It's a lot easier to build that safe sandbox from day one than to try and unwind the risky habits later. But if your team is already using AI with those guardrails, there's no need to panic. That's exactly why we're here. We partner with you to assess your AI readiness, host policy workshops with your leadership, and map out a proactive strategy that keeps you moving both steady and safely. We had a few questions come in that were great, and we unfortunately couldn't address live because we really try to keep this to 30 minutes. I know everyone's time is valuable. So we will address those questions in the follow-up summary email that everyone will be receiving. So rest assured you will get answered. That will bring us to our core takeaways I want to leave you with today. AI is incredibly powerful, but without proper governance, it introduces massive risk to your business. The biggest thing to remember here is that you can't hit pause on this timeline. Your employees are almost certainly already using AI right now to speed up their work. They just don't have the official corporate policy guiding them. The first practical move you can make is getting those rules of engagement in writing and putting a clear, accessible AI policy directly into your employee handbook or workbook. It takes away the gray area so everyone is on the same page. If you aren't sure how to start building that structure, you don't have to do it alone. We have a team of professional policy writers who can step in and craft those exact guidelines tailored directly to your business and your workflow. We will work with you side by side to map out your strategy, make sure your data is actually ready and safe for AI. The organizations that will benefit most from this AI wave aren't the ones that adopt it quickly. They're the ones that adopt it intentionally and strategically. Make sure to scan our QR code to get started. You can book a time with us, and we can answer some of those questions, talk to you about that. If you can't get to the QR code right now, we will send it in the follow-up email as well. So that will take us to the next slide, actually, that has the QR code on there. You don't need to solve every single piece of this puzzle today, but as you head back to your teams, you should absolutely already be asking, where is AI already being used inside our company? What data is currently being exposed, and what guardrails do we have in place? If today's session was helpful, make sure you scan the QR code. You get a free complimentary 30-minute AI governance conversation with us where we will walk you through what this could look like specifically for your organization, your data, your risks, and your priorities. Let us help you get started. This conversation is no pressure. It's meant to just be practical guidance. Whatever you need answered, whatever you have a question about, we will talk to you about it. Thank you again for taking the time to join us today. We really appreciate you being here. We would love to have you back for our next session, Wednesday, August 19th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, where we will dive into 10 practical ways Copilot can help you save time every week. Until then, have a wonderful rest of your week and take care. Thank you again.
Yeah, bye.